Paradox Junction, the DLC 2 Zombies map for Black Ops 7, has now been released for over a week now, and I wanted to give my thoughts on this map because to me, this map is quite possibly one of the most confusing maps Treyarch has ever made. From the location to them selecting what the wonder weapon is, this map to me is one of the most baffling choices they have probably have ever made when it came to a map release. Especially considering that the past two maps, Ashes of the Damned and Astra Malorum, have been really good, not only because are they unique locations and also unique wonder weapons, but they feel like they were made to be brand new experiences, while this map feels like it's almost a step back in that direction. And it's left me feeling not only concerned for the future of this game, but also the decisions behind the team. To start things off, I would like to talk about probably the coolest thing that this map has introduced, and probably the biggest thing going into it that they marketed, which is the actual time travel mechanic. So for those of you who may not know, this map has a time travel mechanic. When you first spawn into the map, you are in what is known as Future Nuketown or Nuke to Nuketown, and the first couple rounds you're going to be spending here. Well, after you do your first dog round, you will then be teleported to past Nuketown, and that's how you unlock the Pack-a-Punch. And after you unlock Pack, you then will be able to travel into the future or back to the past by paying either 3,000 points in a multiplayer game or 1,500 points in a solo game at a portal. And you can do this for the rest of the game if you want, or you can stay either in the past or the future if you like one or the other. And honestly, I actually think this is a really cool mechanic to add. Being able to travel in time seamlessly in a match, it just feels kind of unreal. Like, I remember the first time I played a match Paradox and seeing it happen for myself, I was kind of taken aback. I was like, holy crap, this is actually really cool to get to see and do, especially because in the last game, Black Ops 6, in the tomb, whenever you wanted to teleport in that map, you had to actually go through a teleport transition like all the other games whenever you teleport. So to be able to see from going from BO6 to this game and it being a live transition, it was really cool to get to see that. However, besides the fact that you get to actually see the teleport transition and being able to see time change in front of you, unfortunately, that's really the only big positive I have about the time travel, because the time travel only is useful if you're either getting the wonder weapon or doing the Easter egg. If you're just playing a casual game of Paradox Junction, you don't really need to mess with the time travel mechanic unless if you're going after a certain perk, because this map actually does have randomized perks like classic BO2 Nuketown does, or if you're trying to get a TED task done that's on the other side. I've had a couple of casual games now where I would just stay either in the future or the past Nuketown, and I wouldn't even touch the portal to teleport to one or the other. So it kind of sucks that they didn't really, at least it doesn't feel like they utilized it for casual gameplay. They only did it for really the Easter egg or the wonder weapon, like I said before. Before the map came out, I thought that maybe how the time travel would work was maybe either there would be different obstacles in your way depending on which version you're at, or maybe if you're in the past version, you will be able to go out down the main street and go into the different houses, while in the future version, that street's blocked off, but the bunker was open and you got access to the bunker. So depending on which version of Nuketown you're in, you would actually get different areas to access, but unfortunately that's not how it works. So while I do enjoy the time travel mechanic, I just wish that they would have done more with it than what they did. Speaking of map changes, let's talk about the actual map that you're playing on, which is literally just Nuketown yet again. This is technically the third time we've had Nuketown. Like I said previously, we had Nuketown back in BO2, and then we had a reimagining or remake of it as Alpha Omega in Black Ops 4, and now we have it yet again in Black Ops 7. But this time, I would say this is more of a remake or reimagining of BO2 Nuketown than Alpha Omega was. Alpha Omega kind of expanded on BO2 Nuketown and made it a more original zombies map than BO2 Nuketown was, while this one is pretty much just BO2 Nuketown, except now you can go to the pre-nuked version of it. And I'm not gonna lie, man, I think it's kind of whatever. Like, literally out of any map we could have gotten, like any map from the past, like from BO1, BO2, hell, even World at War, I would have taken a Doris remake or reimagining over Nuketown. It just kind of feels like Nuketown was the safe option for them to go to, or was the easiest option for them to be like, all right, we need a small map, we need to make like cuts somewhere, because I'm going to assume that the rest of the maps in this game are going to be bigger or more unique maps like Ashes and Astra is. So I assume they're like, okay, we need at least one DLC to where we need to cut back and make like the Tomb-esque. So what can we do? And literally they're like, okay, let's just make Nuketown remake. Some people like Nuketown, right? Let's just remake Nuketown again, and you know, people may end up enjoying that. And you know what's crazy? They could have probably just made this a survival map, and I feel like it would have been received better than this being considered an actual DLC map. This is supposed to be on par with something like Buried or something like Drak. Like, this is supposed to be on par with other DLC maps. If this was just considered a survival map, which rumor has it, this is supposed to turn into a survival map, which I feel like would be pointless because the map's already small enough, but I digress. If, you know, this map is supposed to be compared to other DLC maps, it is disappointing seeing us getting this as the offering, especially us waiting, what was it been, like two or 3 months since we got Astra? The community's already in a bad state already, but then to get hit with, oh yeah guys, we're releasing our next map, and it's just Nuketown remake, it does leave me feeling disappointed. And it's crazy because they could have probably made a couple of changes, and I probably would feel a little bit better about this map. The original rumor, when this map was being rumored after Astra came out, it said there was going to be 3 Nuketowns you can explore. Not 2, but 3. And the only ones we got with the map is the nuked version of Nuketown and the past version of Nuketown. And hey, I would say if there was a third version, like maybe a prison version, since this is supposed to be set in a prison, or it's supposed to be a purgatory place, if there was a prison version of Nuketown, or just a more messed up version, I feel like it would have made the consensus a little bit better for this map. But honestly, I just kind of feel like they stitched this together, because yeah, that's something else too. This is supposed to be a purgatory. They kept talking about how this place is supposed to be a prison. The time loop, I get, but when you actually play this map, it doesn't feel like you're stuck in purgatory. Instead, it just feels like you're running through Nuketown. If they wanted to make it feel like purgatory, I felt like they actually had to make the map look or feel like it's a purgatory. I get the idea of the time loop, you're being stuck in a time loop, but it doesn't actually feel like that when you play the map. It just feels like the map has a time travel mechanic. The last thing I would say about this map before I talk about the Wonder Weapon is that while I do have complaints about the map itself, it's still a fun map to play on, though I would say that's more than likely the reason is because it is on Black Ops 7, and I personally do enjoy the gameplay of Black Ops 7. I love playing Curse mode, And this map is a very quick map to be able to get set up on, since you don't really have anywhere to travel to, and you don't really have anywhere to go besides like the cul-de-sac, the backyards, and the street. It's very easy to set up quick on this map. So while I do enjoy playing the map, gameplay wise, like to whether it's leveling up guns or just wanting to play a quick match of zombies, I definitely feel like the map itself could have been way better executed than what we got. Speaking of things executed, let's talk about the Wonder Weapon, the return of the Blundergat, and holy shit, this thing sucks. Like, I'm not gonna lie, when they first teased that the Blundergat was coming back, I actually got really excited, because I would say the Blundergat is, in its variants, are probably in my, like, top 5, or at least top 10 Wonder Weapons of all time. The Blundergat has always been a really cool weapon to see, and to see it return in modern day zombies, I was really stoked for it to come back. However, when you actually use it in game, it just sucks. Like, unless if you upgrade it, it just does not have any real killing potential. Whenever I've used it, I either would have to get headshots, or I would literally have to upgrade it to the Thundergat to make it viable. Hell, you can't even use this thing to kill the Mimic properly. Literally, whenever the Mimics would spawn in, I would literally have to shoot the Mimic 2 or 3 times in the face just to kill with the Blundergat. That is awful, especially comparing it to, like, a bullet gun. Like, hell, something like the Cap 45 or the SG-12 or the Akitas or the MXR. Like, any bullet gun can shred through the Mimic faster than the Blundergat, and that's awful. Literally, a Wonder Weapon, at least to me, should be a weapon that you want to use. It should be a weapon that's all powerful, and sometimes they could be underpowered to be more tactical, but since the Blundergat has already been in previous Zombies experiences and has been really good in those maps, then I don't see why the Blundergat couldn't have been really OP and busted here. And I've seen a lot of people compare the Blundergat to something like the Ice Staff from the Tomb, because both are reused Wonder Weapons, and both suck if you just get them how they are at base value, but then once you upgrade them, they become way better. And it is the case with the Blundergat, because after you upgrade it to the Thundergat, I definitely would say it's way more viable, and it is actually pretty fun to use. There's this one attack you can use with the Thundergat where if you're able to hold down a charge, there's like a beat, like a drummer beat that starts pumping in the gun. And if you're able to release the trigger when the beat happens, it shoots out a beam that goes through a crowd of zombies and you see their souls leave their bodies. And it reminds me of a lot of, obviously, like Blood of the Dead, where you're able to suck the zombie souls out of them using the shield, and it's really cool to see that, and it does make the Blundergat a lot of fun. Though to actually get the Blundergat, unless you hit the box, you have to go through a whole process of having to go to the past and the future. And then to get the Thundergat, it's actually a pretty easy process, I would say, with having to guide tortured souls to the workbench. So as a whole, yeah, I think the Thundergat is a really fun Wonder Weapon to use. It does feel powerful, especially if you horde up zombies together and go down one of the backyard alleys and then just do it there. It feels satisfying seeing a whole horde get wiped out using it. However, the actual base version of the Blundergat really needs a buff, in my opinion. It needs either the bullet penetration or it needs a spread, because the actual chokehold of the bullet spread, if you actually shoot, the bullets are really close together compared to how they're supposed to be, where they're a little bit more spread apart. Not only that, but also the lore of why the Blundergat's here is non-existent. Literally, I'm pretty sure they said that there was going to be an explanation as to why the Blundergat is here, but it's just here. There's no, as far as I can tell, there's no audio logs, there's no intel, there's nothing explaining why the Blundergat is here out of all places. It's just kind of here, at least compared to the Tomb. In the Tomb, they explained that the Ice Staff was used to protect the Sentinel artifact. At least they explained it there, but here, it's not even explained at all, so that's another I don't know if you consider it a nitpick or a complaint, but that's another problem I have with the Blundergat being in this map. So overall, Sundergat's really fun. Blundergat needs a buff. Wish there was more story to it. It's kind of just whatever. And before I go on to the final part, which is the Easter egg, I actually forgot to talk about the enemies in the map back in the map section of this video, so I'm just going to be talking about them here, which should be pretty quick, because in this map we have the Plague Hounds, or I'm sorry, the Rad Hounds. I genuinely got confuse them, because they're pretty much the same thing, except they just got a new name and a new model. Yeah, so to give a little background, I personally hate the Plague Hounds. I remember back in Cold War, I actually got to round 100 on D Machine, and they were the plague of my existence. Those guys had like the biggest hops of any enemy I've ever seen. They were able to jump across football fields just to bite you. So when I heard that there was going to be Rad Hounds in this map, I was worried that they were going to be as annoying as the Plague Hounds in Cold War. And yeah, sometimes they could be annoying to deal with, but personally, they aren't the worst thing ever. I think I have gone down 1 or 2 times by them, but I've never been annoyed by Rad Hounds, because at least how they've done this map, if you play a multiplayer, there's a bunch of them that spawn, but if you play in solo, you literally only get 1 or 2 Rad Hounds that spawn per round, so it's really easy to take them out once they spawn in. And speaking of only spawning 1 or 2 per round, the Shock Mimic. This is also probably my least favorite enemy ever in zombies. I hate the Shock Mimics. I hated them back in the Tomb. I hate them whenever they show up. They are the worst enemy probably of all time to me. I hate the Shock Mimics, because what makes them different from the regular Mimics is if you try to use equipment, they straight up deactivate it and shut it down, which, yeah, it makes the game harder, but to me, it also just makes it way more annoying. But I can kind of deal with them here. I'm actually kind of fine with them being in this map, because just like with the Rad Hounds, they're actually not that annoying, just because in solo, you only have to deal with 1 per round. So yeah, it is annoying when they spawn in and you have to deal with them, but once you kill them, you literally, after that, the rest of the round, it's just zombies. So they're not that annoying, but in co-op, they are probably some of the most frustrating enemies you'll ever experience. So the Rad Hounds, they're okay. I don't really care. The Shock Mimics, I just wish they weren't here. I hate them. I mean, they could have probably replaced them with something else like the Amalgams or Manglers, but I bet they probably were afraid that people were gonna be tired and complaining about them too, so they probably wanted to come up with something else to put in the map to try and make it more difficult, because if it was just the Rad Hounds and zombies, it would have probably made the map too easy, so they probably felt like they had to put the Shock Mimics in the map to make the map more difficult. Again, it's one of those things where I understand why they did it, but that doesn't mean it's fun or I'm fine with it. I'm still going to criticize it. They could have probably done something better. Hell, I've even seen some people suggest maybe they could have brought back the Megatons from Cold War, and honestly, that would have been fun, because the Megatons actually would have fit in the map, and it would have made sense. And since we haven't seen them since Cold War, I would have actually been fine with it, but it is what it is. And finally, the last thing I would like to talk about with this map is the actual Easter egg. And I actually think the Easter egg for this map is actually really good. It's pretty decent. So the Easter egg in this map, you basically are working with the twins, or you're trying to prove your worth to the twins, which the twins have been a presence we've been seeing ever since back in Ashes of the Damned, in Astra Malorum. They've kind of been popping up as side Easter eggs, but this is now finally the first time we actually get to see them for ourselves and actually get to find out a little bit about who they really are, which it seems like the twins are actually Sam, but just alternate versions of her. So basically, the one little girl who looks fine, the blonde one, is post-tagged or Toten, so she's the one that's been from Cold War onwards. There's an audio log where she actually talks to Weaver and Gray and Carver, and she knows who they are. But then the zombie version of the twins, she remembers everything from before tag. She talks about the Great War, she remembers Takio, so it's actually really cool getting to see these twins and getting a little bit of an explanation on who they are. We also get an explanation as to why the Warden is doing all of this, but the actual Easter egg itself is pretty cool. You actually get to play these like childhood like games. You play stuff like hopscotch, and I think it's called Foursquare. There's actually a Easter egg step where you have to play the piano, which kind of reminds me of a puzzle from the original Silent Hill, and I actually think it's really cool doing all of these like challenges, because so far we've kind of had that kind of not in Ashes of the Damned. You had to free souls, and you had to do a chemical equation, and you had to do all these different things to try and get to Vaetherion. Astra Malorum, you had to fix a teleporter to get to Mars to be able to then fight Caltheris there. So a lot of it has been having to fix something or do something for us to be able to travel and actually fight the boss to free the Shadowsmith. While in this map, we are basically trying to help the twins out so they can help us out by defeating what is known as the Dark Heart. We don't really know what the Dark Heart is. Some people think the Dark Heart, which is the boss by the way, the Dark Heart is either, some people think it's either the heart of the time loop of the purgatory. I kind of took the Dark Heart as the heart of the nuke in the background, the atomic bomb, and I guess the idea is that once you kill the thing that's causing the purgatory, you then can leave. And yeah, in the boss fight itself with the heart, it's actually pretty good. I actually really enjoy it. I still think Vaetherion is the best boss in this game so far, but I definitely think that the fight with the heart is better than Caltheris. Caltheris to me is just more annoying, and Caltheris has like 4 or 5 phases, while the heart only has 3. Now you do have to protect, like you have to do waves, and you have to protect the twins. They basically do like these summoning circles where you have to protect them, and once they're finished, they are able to unlock weak points on the boss so that you can start shredding him. So it's basically a 3-wave defense kind of boss. So as a whole, yeah, the boss design itself may be a little weird, but mechanically, it's actually a really fun boss to go up against, and it's difficult, but I don't think it's as frustrating as something like Caltheris, because Caltheris has like 5 waves, and she ends up starting to throw stuff like rocks at you and things to basically just screw you and your team over. And then Vaetherion has probably been the most fun boss fight, I think, so far. You have to use Old Tessie to ram into him to his weak spots, and then during his invincibility phases, you have to hit him at a certain time to then be able to laser into him. So these bosses so far have been pretty cool and unique. The only thing I would say about the Dark Heart boss in Paradox Junction is I wish it had a unique boss arena. It basically just being Nuketown but without the cars, it's very disappointing. They could have easily probably made this boss in the heart of the atomic bomb, kind of like the Eye of the Storm in a sense, and hell, even if it was just a plain field and then you have this giant heart in the middle, I think that would have still satisfied a bunch of people. But since the fact that this boss arena doesn't have any uniqueness to it, it does kind of just drag it down a bit. But with that being said, I would give Paradox Junction a 6 out of 10. I think this map, definitely it's fun to play, but that's more because of cursed mode and the mechanics of BO7, and I just find the gameplay enjoyable than the actual map itself. This map definitely, I feel like, has kind of lost trust in some of the community, just because before launch, this game was promised we would be going to wild locations and see new things, but this map literally just reuses the map itself, the wonder weapon, enemies. It's a lot of reused content that was promised that it was going to be new and original. And I don't even mind reused content, but here, this map, it just feels like they had to stitch something together, and this is what we got. Now, there is some good news because before the map came out, like a day or two, there was a creator call with other content creators, and Kevin Drew and them did say that each map here on out is going to be a brand new location, a new wonder weapon, new enemies, and they're going to be launching at the reload of each season here on out. So they did promise that we're supposed to be getting brand new stuff from here on, but just because they say it's going to be brand new doesn't entirely mean it will be brand new. What I mean by is, for example, look at the Radhounds. They literally in their blog post called them new enemies, even though they are just the Plague Hounds but reskinned. So they can be promising new stuff, but we don't really know until we get the next map, which by the sounds of it, towards the end of the cutscene, it's going to be a cold place. So it should be interesting to see what Treyarch cooks up for their next Zombies map. And we shouldn't have to wait for long because I think there's only 1 or 2 weeks left in this season, and then we're on to season 3. And then if I had to guess, the next map probably won't be coming out till probably May, early to mid-May. So who knows? All we can do right now is just hope for the best, hope that the next map is better than the one we got, and hope that this is the only map that is like this in this game. And honestly, if the next set of maps we get are on the same level as Ashes and Astra, I definitely think that this map will be forgiven a little bit since it will be the only map that's like this in the game. But if there's at least one other map that's on the level of Paradox, then I think BO7 will be looked back on probably with not as much fondness as it could be if the rest of the maps turn out to be really great. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy. I plan on making more Zombies content here in the near future. Tell me what you guys think of Paradox Junction down in the comments, and let me know of any video ideas you would want to see from me when it comes to Zombies, because I'm going to be covering the rest of BO7 Zombies, but I don't mind going back to older Zombies and doing stuff there too. So just let me know down in the comments. I hope you guys enjoy. And finally, please like the video, share it if you thought it was interesting, and subscribe to the channel to support me. I love you all, thank you for watching, and have a good day.